The first time I visited Serenity, it stood out to me as one of the most exceptional tiny homes that I had ever seen. Now, 4.5 years later, it's amazing to know that even one of the coolest tiny houses I've ever seen somehow can get even better. Hey Megan, lovely to see you.
And you, welcome back.
Thank you very much. G'day Colin, great to see you, mate.
Great to see you too.
It is so wonderful to be back, and this place is looking absolutely ridiculous. What an upgrade you've done to this.
There's a lot of changes since you were here last.
Yeah, you have been very, very busy.
One of us has.
Two of us have.
It is crazy to think just how fast time is racing, because it's quite hard to believe that it's 4.5 years now since I visited you last, which means you've now been living in the tiny home for 5.5 years. So how's it all working out for you?
Brilliantly. Love it. We've made a lot of changes since you last saw it. We've had space for our daughter to move in and live with us and help her out while she found a home. Each addition just makes the house more livable than the last.
Great. Now, when you designed this house, it was obviously just designed really for the two of you. So how did you find accommodating long-term guests in the home?
You're right, it was a two-person design, but surprisingly it's worked quite well. When we go inside, you'll see a few changes we made for that living area 4, which daughter was living with us at the time, but yeah, it's worked okay.
Brilliant. I can certainly see that a tremendous amount has changed, and obviously one of the first noticeable features is this amazing deck that you've built.
Yeah, well, the deck was all about increasing the space in the house. Having the shelter here means we don't have water coming inside. It also means we can live outside as well. And in Queensland, that's a great thing.
It's essential here, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Lots of meals out on the deck. We'll usually sit out here for breakfast on the weekends. I want to come home from work in the afternoon. I'm on the lounge and you're just sitting in, taking all the green space. It's a good mental break.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I see that you've closed up all around under the gooseneck as well.
Yeah, so to tidy up the house a bit, put a little screen around that gooseneck part, which is just attached with a couple of bolts. So when move time comes, just release those, drop those skirt things around and neaten it up.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always loved about your property is that we are right now essentially in the heart of the city, but it feels like you're a million miles away from everything. And especially now that this outdoor area has been built, it just gives you that next level ability to really be able to enjoy nature and all of the wildlife around here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, nature and wildlife do like to play with the gardens that we've done. Your job today, if you see cockatoo, is to run out and start waving your arms around because they destroy the plants.
Uh-oh.
We'll have kangaroos come up and have a little nibble. We have possums, but it's nice to see them.
Yeah.
And we enjoy them being around, but they can sometimes be a little problematic.
Yeah, so it's a balance between enjoying having them around, and there's a lovely little bird with a nest just in the carport there, plus the damage they do to, say, our vegetable crops. So finding that happy medium is our challenge.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, true. And the gardens. Wow, this place is just looking amazing.
So the vegetable garden out the other side to start with, put proper raised beds, puts a nice fence in around it. In through this area, a nice fire pit, and area near the chook pen, which is sort of pleasant having the chooks near us as well.
Yeah.
The bonsai trees, but then down the hill here we've got our orchard, which we're growing in pots so that when we can move they will come too. Little garden house down here as well, and
we've got the bee garden for your new passion project.
We do, a special garden, lots of flowers. I've embraced native beehives, so we've got a little bee hutch out there with a few beehives in there.
I love
so
it.
So put in flower gardens especially for them.
Yeah. And one of the really special things about the way that you've done all of the gardens here is you've done all of this so that if you need to move properties, you can transport everything, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And so think of the chook house. It's a unit which would actually fit into the back of the container, the workshop container out here. The fence around the garden, they're all on posts which were drilled into the ground, so they'll be able to just be pulled apart, pulled out and moved to the next location.
Very big jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
That is so clever. And then obviously with your container orchard, all of that's very easy to shift if need be.
Correct. Yeah, just load them up and away we go.
Absolutely. And the grounds here are just so beautifully kept. I would say that it looks like a golf course, except it actually is a golf course, isn't it?
Yes, the golf course down there is our recent passion. I enjoyed golf before we had children, and it's something I put aside. So building a green down there, a properly formed green, proper grass, it's still got some work to go, and as summer comes on, it'll be looking great.
I love it.
It's a little neighbourhood tournament.
That's right.
Yeah.
The neighbours, one of the kids particularly from the family of the property here, loves golf as well, so we get out and play very often.
Well, I would say a round of golf is on the cards for us this afternoon then.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And another huge addition that you've made is the workshop. Tell me about your workshop.
Yeah, so as you know, my background was in woodwork. Cabinet making was my first trade. In hindsight, it would have been great if that was here before we did this project. We were stumbling over tools a lot here. That's really useful.
Yeah.
I call it Serenity Woodcraft. Doing a few projects, not really as an income, but as a hobby.
Yeah.
Something to do when I retire. But also, I've had a change in career. I'm now a trainer, training apprentices and things. So that becomes my office too. So previously we had the computer up in the loft. I set myself up out there to do my paperwork.
Yeah. And the workshop's made out of a 20-foot shipping container.
Correct. I put the door and the windows in it to start with, lined it, put an epoxy floor on it, and then just recently I started building a deck on the outside of it just to increase that workspace. I'm still going to put a roof on it, but yeah, it'll be more space again.
And that's using reclaimed materials from the garage up the road. And so it's been free, it's recycling, and so
Absolutely.
been perfect.
I mean, a build project just has so much waste, doesn't it? So if you can reclaim some of that and use it, why not?
Exactly.
Yeah. And another thing that I notice here is you've had a huge security upgrade, haven't you? I see all these cameras all over the place.
Unfortunately, Easter of last year, 2023, we woke up and found one of our new cars missing. It had been stolen overnight, so we put some cameras in and more linked into the home automation system to keep a bit of an eye on our house and our car.
Yeah, great idea.
It's
unfortunate but necessary, right? Well, I am just so impressed with all of these incredible improvements that you've already made to the home, and I'm excited to see how things have changed inside. Can we take a look?
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Seeing inside this house again feels just like visiting an old friend. And you know what? It is 5.5 years now that you've lived here, but this house looks brand new. Have you been living here, actually?
Yeah, we sure have. We've spent a fair bit of time sprucing it up, though, in the last few weeks.
It looks absolutely fantastic, and I can see already that quite a bit has changed in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of finishing off. So sort of thinking around the end there to allow the girls to stay with us the time they did, we closed off the edge of that loft/mezzanine, finished a few things off like the lights that were there and the sound bar, and some of the sound stuff wasn't there at the time.
The lounge is a sofa bed now, so when people come to stay, there's a queen-size bed in there that folds out.
Nice.
And the ottoman actually has built-in storage inside, so all the bedding for the sofa bed is now stored in that area as well.
Great.
So lots of thought gone into furniture storage.
Yeah. So for a home that was really designed just for the two of you, you really have built in a lot of future-proofing in terms of being able to have family come and stay and guests. There is actually a tremendous amount of space here for that as well.
Mm. At Christmas time, we had one daughter upstairs, daughter and fiancé down here, plus they brought their dog and the crate. So there was a little bit of juggling, but we all managed at Christmas time with the Christmas tree and presents and luggage, and it was fun.
Amazing.
My little mama heart was very full. Yeah.
Oh, I bet it was. And on the topic of entertaining, one thing that you have definitely improved is your coffee machine. Look at that thing.
Yes, that was my Christmas present. And I made sure it was one that was automatic, that the plan was that my darling husband, who does not drink coffee, we have an 8 o'clock Sunday rule. And you are not allowed out of bed unless you're A, going to the toilet, or 2, coming back with a hot beverage. And we lie in bed and watch YouTube. And the plan was that he would be able to bring me a coffee.
Oh,
it usually
like that
turns
rule.
into me bringing the coffee, but we'll get there.
I definitely like that rule.
It's smart. It's push button and all the rest, but yeah. It's a great rule. We often watch your videos at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
There you go. There you go.
It's really good because it actually forces you to have a slower start to the weekend because you're so busy through the week. particularly this one, he likes to be out and about on a project, and it's a good way of initiating a slower start to the day.
Great, I love it. One of the things that I really took away from the first visit of this house was just how well designed this kitchen was. It's a very full function kitchen. You've got loads of prep space. How's all of that working out for you?
Really, really well. At Christmas time, as I said, we had so many people. The kitchen worked a dream. You tend to wash up as you go, and you have a new way of doing things, whereas before you'd have a little bit more bench space just to store things. But I'm a clean as I go type person anyway. Can handle cooking, it's lovely. Kind of got your inside outside with all your windows and your door there, so you're definitely part of wherever people are.
Yeah. And I see you've got the mini split here now too.
Yes.
Yeah, so that, and one up in the bedroom. So
Nice.
a few of those extras that we wanted. Also, you might remember we had the slot under the kitchen for the robot vacuum cleaner. It's there now, so it comes out at 1 o'clock every day and fishes around and
That
goes
was
back
his
in.
non-negotiable thing.
That is such a good idea. And I love that you've built it in just so tidily right into the cabinetry as
Yeah,
well.
you wouldn't even know it's there.
No, what a great
that's good.
idea. Because already I thought you'd use the kick spaces in this house really cleverly, and that just takes it to a whole new level.
Always pushing that new level.
You certainly are. And another thing that I noticed, which I just think is a little bit ridiculous, is the lighting in the drawers.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
a
cool.
Little luxury item there, having some lights in the drawers.
Yeah, that definitely takes it to a next level, doesn't it?
He can't be left alone in IKEA.
I can't be trusted, that's for sure.
And it is great to see that your adventure fund is starting to look pretty healthy over there.
Yes, always on the lookout for a new international trip, and that's one of the joys of living in a smaller space and having less expenses, that more money can go towards a travel fund and we can have some fun before we're too old to not have fun.
Not to.
Fantastic. And I totally agree. It's one of the things that I think really attracts people to the idea of smaller space, downsize, more simple living is freeing up money for life experiences like travel. And it's really cool to see that in practice, that is exactly what it's helping you to achieve as well, which is so nice.
Exactly.
And the bathrooms next door, I have very fond memories of this being one of the most fully featured tiny house bathrooms I've ever seen. You were so clever with all of your cabinetry and everything in there. How's that all working out?
Yeah, the bathroom is good. It's a nice size. We haven't felt cramped or anything in it. We've still got the toilet there, the incinerating toilet.
Great. And one of the things that you have built in for the incinerating toilet that we didn't show last time was the really cool recessed cubby that you made for the liners.
That's right. So rather than having some sort of a module stuck on the outside of the wall consuming space, this is set back in. Additionally, when you open it, you can access in underneath the little storage area under the bedroom, which is where we store toilet rolls and liner boxes and things like that.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about the incinerating toilets to me is that you do have to obviously always sit down on the toilet. You do have also this sort of additional cost that comes with the consumable elements, because you do have the kind of like paper hat things that you have to put in. How do you find all of that?
Yeah, so the paper hat things probably work out at about 15 cents a flush.
Right.
So that can add up some money over time, and
Yeah.
the toilet itself is an expensive investment to start with. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a cheap solution.
No.
When we were looking, there weren't a lot of composting toilets available that appealed to us.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So potentially now there are solutions that might work as well or maybe even better, who knows?
Yeah, interesting. And that's a good point to make as well, because, I forget, like 5 years, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but a lot changes in 5 years. A lot of the technology that's associated with things like composting toilets, it's actually come a tremendously long way in that amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Well, it's good to know that all of that's still working out. And I would love to see the changes that you've made to the bedroom, because you've done some fun stuff up there, haven't you?
We have a few exciting things to show you there.
All right, let's have a look.
Let's go.
All right. This just looks so nice. It's so good to see it all finished, because when we were here, there were still wires sticking out of the wall, and now everything is just looking so beautiful.
Yeah, it's much better now than it was then.
Definitely. The light fittings look great, and you've got the bed head there now too.
And the air conditioner as well.
Air conditioner as well, very nice addition. And the television, this was already here, but I just love this feature. You've done this so well.
This is the place I like to come and hang out with, that television right there. And yeah, sitting nice and flush like that's awesome.
Yeah. You've done some more clever stuff with the storage behind here, haven't you?
We have, yeah. So there was a little patch in right behind that television which wasn't being used. So accessing here from the clothes side, a shelf with some stacking clothes, and then from around the other side, a shoe rack, all of them lit up, of course.
Of course. And that really is quite something, because already you had a pretty flash tiny house wardrobe.
Absolutely, and it's been handy having that space when we had our daughters come live there, because suddenly the wardrobe all needed to come forward for them to hang their clothes there, and we've all managed to store everything very well.
Great. And there's something else that's really different about this room, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
There certainly is. That'll be the windows. So when we built the house, we put windows that were 600 high here. The reason for going short was not sure what the view might be from where we were, where we might end up, and so privacy. After a while, and when we're at this location, we thought it'd be great to have a little bit better view, a little bit more airflow through the house.
Right.
Or through the bedroom in particular. But the other reason we increased them was we became aware that if we were here of a night and worst case, say we had a fire down there, how are we going to get out? And so we've added the window and this thing here, which gives us a escape ladder out of that window. So a knife here, slash the screen, throw the window out, it's all anchored there, and we climb out and we're down.
That is genius. What a clever idea. And, you know, Queensland, bushfires, I mean, it's a very sort of real thing for a lot of people. And obviously, you know, house fires can happen anywhere. So being able to build in a function like that, that is just so clever.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so tidy too. Look how compact that thing is.
Good.
Yeah.
And look, to have a little bit of extra lighting, both the architraves there have some soft lighting coming underneath them as well. It's great for sitting here watching television with just a little subtle lighting happening.
You are a very clever man. That is a beautiful feature. And to that end, I mean, I think one of the really great takeaways from seeing a tiny house like this, which has been lived in for a while now, and where you have so successfully made some really cool modifications to the place, is that you don't really have to get everything 100% right the first time. Just like any home, you can renovate and change a tiny house, can't you?
Yeah, so little changes here and there. And I remember saying in our first video that we're just finished. The reality is it's still not finished, and there'll be still things we're going to be changing.
Yeah. Let's say that you were going to tackle this project again. Right from the very beginning, what would you change?
Not a lot. We spent so much time thinking, planning, scheming, designing on the computer to try and get it right the first time. But the fact that it is a smaller project means that if you do make a change, it's not a big deal and it's easier to switch out.
The one major difference that we probably can't do anything about now is when we had our trailer made, it was using 2 big truck wheels. So it meant it was 1 metre off the ground. And with our maximum restricted height, it means the floor kind of came up. How that affects is really in the height of the mezzanine loft. If we were to be able to go back in time and get, say, a 3-axle smaller wheel trailer, which would drop the floor height, that makes the effect of raising the roof height in the loft.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the great things about that is that's really just something that affects a guest space, which is sporadically used. It's not one of those things that affects your day-to-day life in the house, because we're in your bedroom right now, and even I have a good amount of headroom in here. So it really is very well thought out in all of those respects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And everything's still working out well here on the land with your parking spot?
Yeah, we have a great relationship with our friends at the property here. Thinking into the future, one of us is about 10 years away from retiring. One of us has got a fair bit more than that. We'll probably aim to move out of Brisbane somewhere. We're thinking maybe Toowoomba type region, somewhere there where we can buy a little property with a creek maybe running through it and room for a golf course and stuff like that. But yeah, that would be the longer term goal.
We'll see if the jigsaw puzzle goes back together.
Well, that is one of the beautiful things about the way that you've done everything here. I mean, everything looks so permanent and set in place, but absolutely everything here can be moved, which is just remarkable.
That's been the underpinning philosophy for every design of every bit.
Yeah.
How we're going to pack this up.
Yeah. And honestly, just seeing how well you've done all of this. I can't wait to see what you do with your own bit of land. That's going to be really exciting.
It would have a treehouse, I think.
Oh, yeah. You have thought out this design so well, and you have really built an exceptionally beautiful home here. Having lived in it now for 5.5 years, do you still feel like this was the best choice for you? Like, are you still really happy that you've made the decision to build this home?
Yeah, I think so. We enjoy living in it.
It still makes me smile when I drive home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a sign of
It's
a
a
sign of
good feeling.
team.
Yeah.
A lot of people still think, oh, they're a bit weird. They live in a tiny house. And so then I send them the link and they go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
We want one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And living here for so long and still finding enjoyment in things in the house that just make me smile and think of how much everybody needs a Colin in their life.
I agree.
I can talk about something and he's out there starting to make it. I've had to learn to preface things and go, we'll talk about it later before you start building. And because he'll turn around twice and it'll be half made. So I've learned how it works. But everybody needs a Colin, and this house is just a testament to what goes on in this man's brain.
Yeah.
And how clever he is.
I completely agree. Exceptionally clever. And it doesn't stop at the house, because all the changes that you've made outside the home and the gardens, this place is really exceptional.
It's home.
Yeah. And I really like that sentiment about this home putting a smile on your face when you drive up and see it still after 5.5 years. And I understand that because it put a big stupid smile on my face when I drove up and saw it and all of the wonderful additions and changes that you've made to this place. It is just such a treat to be back here in this home and visit you both again. Thank you so much for once again sharing your space with us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's just so great to see Colin and Megan again and revisit this amazing, beautiful tiny home. 4.5 years later, this still remains one of my absolute favorite tiny houses. And I think that really just comes down to the sheer amount of thought and effort that went into planning out every aspect of this build so meticulously. It's so nice to see that those few little things that needed changing have been changed. And it really just goes to show the way that you can amazingly accentuate a house by expanding into the outdoors, and the way that they have done that here is just brilliant. And the fact that still all of this can be picked up and transported when they eventually buy their own bit of land is just brilliant. It's amazing to be back here, and I am just so happy for Colin and Megan and what they have built for themselves here.